Zach Glass here with a video journal for Broadcast Law and Ethics, where I'll be discussing the FCC's podcast Going Once, Going Indefinitely. The first question is, what does white space mean? It just refers to an area where the broadcast spectrum is not available to any users, and it's because the geography is not exhaustively licensed. These spaces were caused by government overregulation or command and control tactics, where they overregulate spectrum usage rights, make them use points rather than areas. It hindered the advancement of cell service in the mid 80s and into the 90s. They eventually rolled back that control or that command and control tactic, and they realized that it's costing everybody a lot of money and really hurting our country's broadcasting ability and communications ability. Moving on, what is a spectrum auction? A spectrum auction is when the FCC auctions off portions, bands, and frequencies of the broadcast spectrum to bidders in a simultaneously ascending auction. The next question will help me elaborate on that. What prompts the FCC to hold an auction? Well, an FCC will hold an auction when there's a portion of the broadcast spectrum that is not in use, nobody has the rights to it, and they feel like it's time to use that portion of the spectrum for the better of the American public. This is not as frequent of a thing anymore. Most portions of the spectrum across our country are already in use, or the rights are already claimed. So what happens more often now is people are bidding on portions of the spectrum that broadcasters are selling off. The FCC decides that, hey, this broadcaster has this huge swath of spectrum, this huge piece of the pie. They're using more digital. They're reaching people in a more digital manner now. They're not even really using a certain portion of this. We could reallocate this to somebody and make it more effective, make it a more effective use for the American public. Also, the broadcaster can make money by selling it, and the FCC can also make money for the Treasury by bidding or by auctioning it off to bidders. This is a rotating door now as technology is constantly moving forward. Broadcasters and people that own parts of the spectrum or rights to parts of the spectrum are realizing that they don't need as big of a chunk, and that these chunks that they do have are significantly increasing in value. And they can sell them off, make a good bit of money, and still reach the same amount of people they were reaching before, just through different means. And then the people that go and bid and win the rights to these portions of the spectrum can use it in different ways that are more valuable to the American public. So I thought that was pretty cool. I learned a lot from this podcast. The guests on the podcast really like to say, a lot. I ended up turning off the audio and just reading the transcript, but they put every single in the transcript also. So he could work on his radio performance. We can get Mr. Smith to work with the guest on this podcast. Overall, really informational. I really enjoyed reading that transcript, and I learned a lot about how the FCC distributes spectrum rights. I didn't know anything about white space or spectrum auctions, so really cool. I'll see you in class.